This is the Good Government Show.
So at any given time, we use a functional population of 170,000 people. There's 170,000 people right now in the Keys. Only 80,000 live here. So think about that. Another 90 are here. More here are here that are visiting than people who actually live here.
We have anywhere from a couple of inches to a couple of feet of salt water on local roads.
We also have pictures of crocodile out in the road. So this makes the walk very risky to walk up and down this road.
Good government is silent. It just gets things done.
The little fishies swimming around in it, which the roseate spoonbills are back now, and they're going around eating the little fish and having fun in it. But it's not the right thing to be for a public road.
I don't think we need to be cheerleading. We just need to do our jobs.
Welcome to the Good Government Show. I'm Dave Martin. On this episode, we're going to be all over the place. And that place is the fabulous Florida Keys. If you're a regular listener, you know that the Keys is really one of my favorite places on the planet. And if you're not a regular listener, well, first of all, welcome. All right, now what you need to do is go back and listen to the first season. Make sure you listen to the episode about the Keys. And then come back. It'll make a lot more sense. I'll wait. Okay. All right. I'll wait. Okay. You're all back. Good. All right. So the Florida Keys, they're like the Caribbean islands. They're just a short drive from the mainland. It's got clear blue water, sandy beaches, some of the best fishing in the world, great diving, tiki bars, and it's the home of my favorite frozen drink, Rum Runners. But there's a lot more to the Keys than just beaches and bars. The Good Government Show is sponsored by Ourco. That means our community. Ourco has found a way to make government more effective. Ourco provides the OUR platform, and this is an app that blends in-person and digital interactions to connect people with their government, their county, their town, their state. The Ourco app transforms meaningful conversations into reliable data. They can turn results into projects and programs the community has essentially already approved. It's sort of like a flash poll by phone, but without the call and in real time and wherever community members are. Maybe they're at their house or their office or where they're out just talking about local issues. Maybe the choice is between putting in more local buses or expanding the bike lanes. Ourco can get you an answer immediately. With OUR, you can engage your citizens or any group, learn what they want, and build programs and policies that advance your county, your job creators, your constituents. So visit Ourco.com, that's OURCO.com, and learn how they do it. And while you're there, book a demonstration. Our friend Rhonda Hagg is the Monroe County Chief Resilience Officer. And to her, the Keys are a massive environmental challenge, including one special problem.
So the Florida Keys are a really beautiful place, and they will be for a long time to come. But things are changing, and they're changing quite rapidly. And what they don't see is the level of flooding on the local roads in October, November, December, when we get the seasonal king tide flooding. We have anywhere from a couple of inches to a couple of feet of salt water on local roads where neighbors have difficulty getting to and from their homes.
It's the change that government leaders in the Florida Keys are dealing with every day. The flooding comes from the extreme weather changes. And that means streets being underwater. It means fish and alligators on the roads. It means impassable roads. And in some cases, emergency services can't get through. So that's one of the issues the county is dealing with. It's sea rise. In fact, some statistics show that parts of Big Pine Key, and that's in the lower Keys, it's going to be completely underwater in just a few decades. Let's hope the famous No Name Pub is not affected, but other parts will be. On her first season of the Good Government Show, we met Rhonda Hagg, and she was getting their canal restoration project underway. This is a project that's already cleaned up 12 canals in all parts of the Keys. When they were built, these canals were created. They just wanted to make more waterfront property and really think about water flow. And the result is that while there's lots of waterfront property, many of these waterways in the Keys, well, they kind of just are disgusting. They smell, marine life is gone, the water doesn't flow. People don't want to be there. They don't want to be outside. This canal restoration $500 million project is fixing all that. And the good news is, as Rhonda will explain, the project is continuing and the canals are getting cleaned up.
So what we're doing is when we restore these canals, whether we backfill them making too deep canals less deep, or we take out the muck. We always put a weed gate in at the end if it needs it, if they're one of these canals that are seeing this huge influx of seaweed, to keep out the seaweed. And so really the ultimate end goal of the whole canal restoration program is not just to increase the water quality in the canals. That's one of the main goals. It's also that would then help increase the nearshore waters, which helps the coral reef and all things like that. So everything ties together here in the Keys with the canals and the nearshore waters. And of course, when we improve the environment, it also improves the enjoyment that people get. They can swim in their canals again. Their nearshore waters are now nurseries again for the fish and all types of marine life like it's supposed to be. And then we get, the visitors will see more marine life in the waters, and that's what it's really all about. I'm very happy with what we've done. I wish we could do more per year, but, resources are always limited and we have to make maximum use of what we have. It also takes a long time. We meet with each and every neighborhood and the canal residents on each and every canal in advance to notify them of the meetings. We meet with them to let them know what's going on.
What would you like tourists to know about the place that they're visiting and what's going on there?
We are a small island community with very, very big resilience needs. So we want our residents to be able to stay here. We want our visitors to continue to visit us, and we want to keep the beauty and the environmental beauty of the Keys for as long as we can. But there are changes coming that we have no control over, the levels of the sea rise. We can't change that. The only thing we can change is the way we adapt and mitigate.
The hard challenge, Rhonda explained, is that with the funding they now get, they can only do about 3 canals a year. So that means it would take like 30 years or more to clean up these canals. So they're looking on faster methods to clean up canals that may not need as much work. But there is progress, and the people that live there have seen the changes. Luckily, I got to see some of that for myself on a recent trip to the Keys. My first stop was to meet Monroe County Administrator Roman Gastesi. We talked about where we were with both the canal project and the Sea Rise project, and he also sat for our Good Government Show questionnaire, and I got some tips from him on where to eat when you're looking for fresh seafood in the Keys. So here's Roman.
My name is Roman Gastesi. I'm the Monroe County Administrator, and we're in Key Largo, Florida right now.
We're here to talk a little bit about Sea Rise. Explain to me where in Monroe County, the Keys, are you at sea level or below sea level, and what does that mean?
Well, at sea level rise, the highest point in the Keys is something called Solaris Hill in Key West, and it's about 20 feet high. That's very unusual, very unusual. The rest of the Keys averages about 7 feet high. So, and we've seen in the last 110 years, the level has gone up 9 inches, and that's empirical data. We have a gauge that you can go online and look for it, NOAA gauge down in Key West, that's been there since 1912. And it looks like the stock market goes up and down, but it's got a trend analysis of about 9 inches in the last 110 years.
What are you looking at? What's the future for the Keys?
Right now, we're estimating another 9 to 24 inches in the next 50 years, and that's a big range. We understand that. So basically continue what's happened, but it seems like it's accelerating.
So it took you 100 years to get here, and it's going to take you 50 years to double where you are.
Correct. It's definitely doubling. It's gone up in the last 40 to 50 years. It's gone up more than it did in the previous 40 to 50 years. There's no doubt.
So what does that mean to the people who live here?
Well, it depends where you live. You're already seeing the effects. Some of the lower areas down in Big Pine, up here in Key Largo, especially along the bay, some of the areas that are low-lying, they're already starting to see the high tides, and they're seeing what we call sunny day flooding. It's just based on the tides coming in when you got the high tides, especially in the fall when we have the moon tides.
We talked with a couple of residents that talked about, over a foot of water. They've talked about, walking through fish. They've talked about walking past crocodiles and alligators. Is that what's going on?
Absolutely. It's been very frustrating in the last 5-6 years because it's really accelerated. And we've had what we call the king tides, very high king tides. We've also had some weather patterns because they're in an area, if you look at the map and the topography, not only do they have the king tides, but they also they're like a basin, a big bowl that they're in, and all that water is coming up. So they're affected 2 ways, by the winds and just the abnormal tides that are coming in, and they're in very low-lying areas. Frankly, some of those areas could not be built today. They're in very low-lying areas. They would have been elevated, and some areas that were built at the same years in the 50s and 60s, just down the street, but they were elevated to 7-8 feet. They're not having that kind of problem. So that's the problem. These places that were allowed to be built on very low level areas.
So we call this the Good Government Show. Tell me what the government is doing to try to fix this, and what are your plans, and what's the project?
Well, we did a vulnerability analysis. So we have about 311 miles in the county miles, and we went through each mile.
And that's up and down the Keys.
That's up and down the Keys. That's entire Keys. That's what we call unincorporated Keys. That doesn't include Key West, Marathon, Islamorada. It's just unincorporated Monroe County. They're doing their own analysis now, the municipalities. So we've been doing that for the last few years. It took us 3 years, about $3 million. You can imagine doing all the surveying, all the, it'll take a heck of a lot of work, but we now have a plan. And we're proud to say that we're the first community in the state of Florida, and one of the only in the nation, that have a vulnerability analysis. We have a plan moving forward. Big price tag, $1.6 billion moving forward, 20 years to implement. Now we got to figure out how to pay for it.
What did the study tell you?
The lower lying areas, we need to jump on those immediately. We need to.
Didn't you know that?
We did, but we have to know what to do. Now this actually has engineering now. It has we're ready to put some of these projects out to bid. As a matter of fact, one is out to bid right now. So we know what more or less what they cost, and then now the bids are coming in.
So what's the plan? What are they going to do?
So obviously raise the roads. Right? When you raise the roads, but now you have to capture the water, and you can't just pump the water on surface because you're capturing all the oil and all the grime and everything. So we actually have to put it into the surface down, have to pump it down and cleanse it at the same time. That's the expensive part, the handling, the management of that stormwater. The raising of the roads is easy. You just put fill, raise it, pave it, go. But then the water's got to go somewhere, and that's the expensive part. And that's what a lot of the residents don't understand when you give them the numbers. They say, well, how can it cost $40 million when it's just raising roads? Yeah, but where's the water going to go? And if we don't capture that water, guess what? It's going to go in their yard. So in some of these areas, and it's going to flood the private sector, and we can't do that as a government.
Doesn't that water that you're pumping and putting into the ground include fish, garbage, aquatic life, other stuff?
It can, sure, absolutely. Yeah, if it's a tide coming in, especially during storms, it can. So now you're talking filtering, that kind of thing. It's expensive. It's very expensive to manage the water.
So there's a lot to it. It's not just pumping water. You got to pump it, you got to filter it, you got to look through it, you got to inspect it, right?
Absolutely. And then there's the question of, does it make sense? Is a cost-benefit analysis? For example, I see some of these neighborhoods, and these are going to be big policy questions. Some of these neighborhoods, especially in the lower Keys, where it's 4, 5, 6 miles to get out to 4 or 5 homes. Does it make sense to raise and spend $30 million to get to 4 or 5, 6 homes? Granted, they're $1 million homes, but they're not $30 million. So as a government,
or 30 million people
combined, right? Or $30 million combined. So why would we spend $30 million for 4 homes?
Are you going to have to tell some people we can't help you?
I see that day coming. Yes.
That's not going to work out. That's not going to go over well.
No, it's not. It's just a reality that's happening, and that's called retreat. And we're going to have to, and that's happening in other places, especially in the coast of Carolinas and coast of Louisiana. Some areas that people have said you can't live here anymore. We're not going to spend good money for a bad program.
Have you broached this subject with any of the residents yet?
We have. We've been talking to them for years now.
How did this go over?
Not well. I mean, right now, the residents that are in the lower lying areas, and what are we in August right now? Probably next month about this time, maybe a little later in September, certainly October, November, they're going to start sending us pictures of the sunny day flooding I talked about, and how the streets are going to be full of water, and it's salt water too. So now you're driving your car through the salt water, and they're mad. They're mad at us because they want a quick fix.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to ask you next. I talked to some residents who were kind of furious that you've spent all this money and you've been studying this, I think some people said since 2012, and you've been talking about a solution since 2012, and they go, and still I have, 14 feet of water on my street.
Right. Well, I don't know about 14 feet, maybe 14 inches, but 14. Okay, that's fine.
Correction, 14 inches.
Yes, and they're frustrated, and they're very frustrated, and they want us to jump in there, and that's, there's 2 areas up here. I imagine you either went to Twin Lakes or to Stillwright Point. They're both very, very low lying areas. Again, when you drove in there, you probably noticed right off of US 1, you go down the hill in the Keys.
Right.
So you know that if you're at US 1 is about 10, 12, 13 feet in some areas. So you're going down, now you're down in the 2 or 3 feet range. And that's why they're getting the flooding that they're getting. They think that we just have to raise the roads and that's going to solve their problem. It's not. It's not. We have to do something with the water. And that's why it's taking so long. And then we have to pay for it. Now, if you live in the Keys and you live in a higher area, if you live in the Solaris Hill that I was talking about in Key West, or in Islamorada that was filled, most of the Islamorada was filled appropriately, and they don't have the flooding, those people don't want to pay. They don't want their taxes to go up. They don't want to contribute. If their neighbors, they'll tell me, because you can go, I'll tell you where they are. You can go talk to them. And what they'll tell you is, why are we paying for, they bought in low-lying areas. They should have done their homework and they should have done their surveys. So
do they have a case?
I don't know if they have a case. I mean, it's like this whole school board thing. Once your kids are out of school and they go to college, you stop paying the school board. Okay. So it's the same argument. Right. So we gotta have to spread the pain a little bit. So we have to figure out a way to pay for it. My plan is to have a dedicated penny sales tax. We have a penny sales tax now that generates almost $55-60 million a year. We can take that. We can add another one, generate another $50-60 million. Bond that. Now we have $500 million that we can really make a dent on some of these. The problem is that the legislature in Tallahassee, which we're part of, being a non-charter county, won't allow us to do that. Won't even allow us to put it in front of our voters, because the voters have to vote for it by referendum. They won't even allow us to get that far. So if we become a charter county, then we can do it on our own. And we're even getting pushback from that. So, and the good thing about the sales tax is that you're here for a couple days, you're going to pay the majority of it. Because you're here, you're buying stuff, and so 60 to 70% of the sales tax that we collect is visitors like yourself. So as a local, say, heck yeah, it's better than property taxes is all us, right? We can raise property taxes, but if you guys are going to pay for it, by the way, you're using our roads while you're here, so you might as well pay a majority of it.
Well, I'm happy to pay my share.
Yeah, well, it's a penny. I mean, it's a cent, 1 cent. So right now we're at 7.5%. We would jump up to 8.5%. But let's face it, we're a tourist economy. We have 80,000 residents. But now I just saw the new report, 5 million visitors every year. 5 million. So, that's a lot. So at any given time, we use a functional population of 170,000 people. There's 170,000 people right now in the Keys. Only 80,000 live here. So think about that. Another 90 are here. More here are here that are visiting the people who actually live here.
So at any given time, that's how many folks there are in the Keys?
We call it functional population, correct, 170,000. That's what we have to have, enough police, enough fire, enough resources for 170,000 people. And if the president visits, then he's got to have his own. He's got to have his own.
I don't think he uses the Truman White House anymore.
No, actually we use, Biden has a friend in Key Largo, and he comes quite often, more often than you would think.
Oh.
Yeah, and Obama used to go to Ocean Reef a lot. So I think Trump's only been here once. He went down to Key West, but it was only for 6 or 7 hours.
So are you optimistic that you're going to be able to tackle this in, your administration?
I am, and that's why I'm here. I'm going to retire, but I'm going to come back only because of this issue. And I'm really excited about it. When I started, the big issue was sewer in the Keys. We were the first county in the whole state of Florida, 67 counties, to finish septic to sewer. We have no more septic tanks in the Keys. Might be a few here or there, but we got rid of all our septic tanks, 34,000 septic tanks, $900 million, 20 years. And 25 years ago, when the state said, Monroe County, you have all this issue with the septic tanks, and right there, the price tag back then was $500 to $600 million. It ended up costing $900 million over 20 years. And everybody say, it can't be done, it can't be done. Well, we did it. And that was a big number back then.
Sure.
It's a big number anytime. It's still a big number, right? 900. If I tell you we're going to embark on a $900 million 20-year project right now, you say, whoa. Well, I'm telling you, not 900. I'm telling you 1.6 billion, and we're going to do it in the next 20 years. And we're going to figure out how to do it. Most likely, we're going to use the same formula that we did for sewers. We got a third, a third, and a third. The residents will pay a third. The local governments will pay a third. And we call OPM, other people's money, will pay a third. And that's federal and state money. That's the formula that I'm looking at to move forward. So we'll see if we can pull it off again. It's exciting stuff. We have to do it. We have to do it.
Do you have to do it? Is there, can you people will argue, well, you're the one who lived here. You decided to move to this neighborhood knowing that this wasn't the right place to be. Do you still have to?
Well, yeah, and I've heard
Somebody moves into a low-lying area.
Yeah,
shame on you.
It's a cost of living in paradise, right? It's a cost, you live in an island, right? And here you get hurricanes and you get sea level rise, and it's happening. Well, I think I'm more optimistic, not only that we can fix it, but I think the sea level rise will slow down too. I really think that we're noticing it. I think the world is noticing it. You're starting to see all kinds of, the whole world is talking about it. The whole electric cars and the climate change. Humans, excuse my language, we screw up a lot of things, but we can fix it too. And I think we're going to fix it. And in the meantime, as we fix and plan for the next 50 years, I think we're going to stop. I really think we're going to stop it. I really hope we're going to stop it, but I'm optimistic, and we're going to slow it down. And maybe it won't be that 24 inches that we talked about, the high end. It'll stay at the 9, maybe even 7 when we catch it. Maybe we fix things. So that's what I'm optimistic about. But in the meantime, I think we should do something, or, and I'm going to surprise you on this, do nothing, and tell the Twin Lakes of the world and the still rights of the world, you're on your own. And right now, case law says we don't have to do something. I think that's going to change. Right now, all we have to do is maintain the roads. If there's a pothole, if there's something wrong with the road, we have to fix it. But sea level rise adaptation is not something that, at this point, local government is responsible for.
Is anyone responsible for it?
No. It's nature. It's happening. Whoever you want to blame it on, if you want to blame it on your aerosol spray, or if you want to blame it on fossil fuels, or you want to blame it on just natural selection, or however you want to blame it, but it's not something. I think that's going to change. I think if we tell Stillwright Point right now and Twin Lakes, you're on your own, guys. Tough luck. You bought in a low-lying area. We can't afford it. Other people, Islamorada doesn't want to help you pay for it. Marathon, all these other areas, they think you guys bought in this. Tough luck. I think it would be an interesting lawsuit. And I'm not a lawyer, but that could be coming. And as we see these price tags, because of, for example, Sand Subdivision down in Big Pine, Sand Subdivision and Twin Lakes are going to be the first ones out of the gate. There are pilot programs like this. Can we really do this? And they both have at least doubled in price from the original estimate back in 2015. 2012 number, I don't know where that came from. 2015 is when my memory is that we really started digging into this stuff. And there might have been some complaints in 2012 that I don't remember, but 2015, so it's been 8 years. So yeah, those folks have big reason to think that government's not moving fast enough.
Tell me about something that has been successful. Let's talk a little bit about the canal restoration project. When I was down here, I think there were 3 canals. I talked to a couple of folks who were very excited about the progress. How many canals have you got going? How many, where are you in the project now?
I think we've done 6 or 7 canals by now. And again, that's still in the pilot program because some of these canals are 35, 40 feet deep because that's how far the dredge would go down back in the 50s and 60s to create the land where the homes are sitting, right? So they dredged as much as they could. Well, the tide only comes in 6 or 7 feet. So you got this dead zone that's just nasty. And then you got all this settlement that's been there. You got 10 feet sometimes, 8 feet of settlement, which is just nasty stuff that comes off the storm drains and goes in there. So what's been successful, the most successful, I think, has been the ones that we've taken the settlement out, backfilled with clean fill up to about 8 feet. Sometimes I think we go 10 sometimes. And then now we have this column of water that flushes with the tide, and it's crystal clear water, that substrate that we put in, seagrass starts growing, you see manatees coming in, you see fish, and it's been wonderful. Some of the canals are extremely clear, they're gorgeous. Some are not flowing as well as others because there's a terminal end that doesn't allow it to flow. So now we have to put culverts between, and now we're experimenting with that. And that's going to be like the next phase. So it depends. Every canal is different. Configuration is different. The flow is different.
What have you learned as you've done this?
We've learned, like, for example, down in Big Cop, or one of the areas down south, the culvert was placed in the wrong place. It just, engineers, they're human, right? They can make mistakes too. And it was just in the wrong spot. So we moved it. And now it's in the right spot. Now it's working great. So we learned something there. I'm not going to tell you the engineering terms or what the flows are, but the first one was not right. It's harmless.
Did you say, oh, it has to be directly next to this, or it's got to be this many feet, or was it just an accident?
A lot of engineering goes into this stuff. It's not as simple as you and I would think. Okay, yeah, let's just take a lot of engineering, a lot of testing. So we've learned that. We've learned that the backflows are very expensive, extremely expensive. We've learned that we have to have the equipment access in some areas, some neighborhoods. You can imagine it's all homes. So how do you get access? Where do you bring in the material? Where do you bring in the barges? Where do you bring in the boats? Where do you bring in the employees? So sometimes we've had to put access out and shuttle them in. So you can imagine the expense of doing that and the time consumption. So those are all the kind of things were just the operation. But I think we can say that it's been a very successful program. The state's helped us a lot because it's mostly state money, our stewardship money.
What are you the proudest of what you've done with the canal restoration? What's been the nicest surprise?
Well, when we get an email like the email I showed you, or that Rhonda shared with you, that here we are. I think that was done about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and now there's snorkeling in the canal. Like some of these canals, you would never even dip your toes in, and now people are actually snorkeling and they're seeing coral and they're seeing all kinds of seagrass and fish, and those are proud moments.
What else have the citizens told you?
Well, that the water is clear and they feel good about it. It doesn't smell. They can sit in their backyard. We have air curtains now, where we have these air curtains with seaweed, blocks of seaweed, not 100%, but a lot, 50, 60, 70%. So the seaweed doesn't come in and rot and you get that sulfur smell. So yeah, you can sit in your backyard and you can see activity, fish, especially in the afternoons, and barracudas and all kinds of sea life. That's why you live here, right? We want to see that. So, but we have lost that because some of these canals, especially, so look at the timing now. Look at what's happened here in the Keys in the last 20 years. Took out the septic tanks, right? So you had all these septic tanks oozing into the canals. And I've done 2 studies when I went to the University of Miami myself, where we would put dye in the septic in the toilets, flush the toilet 300 times. And it's not easy to do when you're a college kid, right? Put the toilet, dye in, flush the toilet, and then 2 guys at the dock and 1 guy at putting the 5-gallon buckets of dye, it's an isotope. And then, here it is. You'd see it oozing out of the seawall. That's how nasty this stuff was. And 34,000, I'm not saying all 34,000 were going into the canals, but a majority were. Yeah. A lot of them were. So those are gone now. So that pollutant, all those nutrients are gone and then we come in and we clean up what's that pollutant that's gone and sediment down to the bottom. And then we've put in clean fill. So stuff starts to work. Those are proud moments. That's what government's all about, when we can try to fix things that were designed inappropriately years past.
As I recall, this was a very big project, a lot of, millions and millions of dollars. And I want to say 93 canals you were targeting. Has it changed? Can you speed this up?
We would love to speed it up. We need more money to do that. The state's really stepped up in the last few years. Our stewardship bill, we ask for $20 million every year. We do share that with the municipalities, but we get the majority of that. They were giving us 6, 12, 13. The last 2 years, we've gotten to full 20, which is nice. So we are speeding it up. We have more money. So we pick away at the canals, and they're all ranked. If you've talked to Rhonda, she's got them all ranked, and we try to pick away at the worst first. And I think we're doing pretty well. We're doing pretty well. If we get this penny sales tax, we might be able to use it for some of that. It'll free us some money, so we'll be able to what we call budget swap. Right, some of the money we're using now for matching and things, we can use it for the canals.
After you get done with this episode, hear more good government stories with our friends at How to Really Run a City. Former mayors Kasim Reed of Atlanta and Michael Nutter of Philadelphia, and their co-host, journalist and author Larry Platt, talk with guests and other mayors about how to really get stuff done in cities around the nation. Check them out where you're listening now, or through their nonprofit news site, thephiladelphiacitizen.org/podcasts.
All right, so on the Good Government Show, we have a questionnaire that we ask all government officials. All right, so that was all the fun part. All right, now we're going to get to your philosophy of government. All right, are you ready?
Sure. Fire away.
What is your definition of good government?
Good government is silent. It just gets things done. we don't go out and tell you what we're doing. When there's no news, when there's no emails, and we're just doing our thing. I started 34 years ago, and I've seen the change of just doing the right thing. I was with the Miami-Dade County and the Water Management District. And then when things go wrong, you start going out. And I don't think government needs to be doing that. I think we need to be able to respond, and we need to be informing people, but not, kind of cheerleading. I don't think we need to be cheerleading. We just need to do our jobs.
You're the county administrators from Monroe County, which is the fabulous Florida Keys. How do you know if you're doing a good job? What do you use as your definition of your success?
When I run into, it's a small town. It's run into the grocery store and people say thank you, and you respond to somebody's complaint, and you get things done, and then they email you back, text you back, say thank you. Again, response. I think we need to be able to respond. We need to be able to pick up the phone and solve people's problems when they have problems. And then the Keys are extraordinary because we were so regulated. People move here from other areas, and some areas they don't even have building departments. Let's face it, they don't have all the regulations that we have. So explaining to them, and you get that first look of just so frustration, but then they understand why we have all these regulations and try to keep paradise.
How should these people hold you and other elected officials in Monroe County accountable?
We need to be responsive. We need to be responsive when we need to do our jobs. And if we're doing our jobs, then there shouldn't be complaints at all.
And if you're not?
Then there should be complaints, right? And we encourage that, and then we fix it. And we understand. Most of the time, I got to tell you, most of the time it's folks that have moved in from other areas that are not so heavily regulated. And when we ask them for a flood certificate because they're going to build a fence, what does that have to do with it? Well, those are FEMA regulations, and we're under the FEMA regulations because of our flood insurance policies, right? So we explain that. Oh, okay, all right, I'll get you a damn survey. So those kind of things. Yeah. So, but be responsive and be respectful, and pick up the phone. I'm big on just picking up the phone and responding when they have a question.
What would you like people to know about how government works? In your 35 years, I think you said, in government, you've seen a lot and done a lot. What would you like people to know about government from the inside?
The biggest thing right now, we've been going through it with Islamorada, which is where I live, and if you've been following, they've been going through some tough times. This whole conspiracy theories and stuff, if they only knew, there is no conspiracy theories. As far as I've never seen it, we're just not that coordinated. We're just not that smart.
You're not smart enough to have a deep state?
No, we're just not, And people think, well, the county, like right now, we're helping Islamorada out because they've had 11 managers in the last 20 years. I lived there. And I said, listen, there's this state law that says that there's an executive on loan, and I can get you one of my senior directors to stabilize things. I say to apply the tourniquet because you guys are bleeding here. Let them come in for 2 or 3 months and show you our processes and how we do things, because something's wrong. Right away, you get the emails, oh, the county's coming in to take over the Islamorada. No, I have no interest in taking over Islamorada. So those are the kind of things that's considered. And I think it's gotten worse, and you're in the business with all this, social media and stuff. It's gotten worse. I've seen the divisions get wider, and really we're all in it for the same reasons. We just want to live happy and be healthy and have, a good quality of life. And there is this whole conspiracy thing is crazy.
Who's your hero in government? Did someone inspire you to government service?
It's funny. I've always been involved since a kid. I've always been involved, and always my friends always thought I was the geek. I'd go to meetings and stuff and follow the news, and and I don't know why. I just got into it. I have a medical background. My parents are the medical background doctors, and I started studying biology. Went into biology, chemistry, and started as a hydrogeologist and pollution control inspector, and then I got my MBA, and here I am. I like solving people's problems.
Is there a politician or anybody that that you sort of look up to or think admire?
No, there was a gentleman in Miami, Merritt Sturheim. We're from Merritt. They call him the king. He was a county manager when I first started, and he was just so professional and so correct, and he just taught us to do the right thing. And he taught me that, whatever you do, be ready to be in the witness stand defending it. So just don't do anything wrong. Just, just do the right thing.
Good advice. Good advice.
And that was like, I was a 22, 23-year-old kid.
All right. So this is the hardest question. I am only down here for a couple of days. I am down here in the Keys. What am I having? Where am I going? What are we eating?
You want seafood, I'd imagine.
Well, a little seafood is always good. What else you got?
Well, you got the Fish House across the street here. You ever been to the Fish House? It's just a little north. It's called the Fish House.
What are we serving? What are we ordering?
That's fish, and you're going to have the any fish. I like mahi-mahi,
Okay.
matacumbi,
Okay.
the matacumbi style. It's awesome. I can't go wrong. Whatever side you want. And then we have for steak, because, after a few days here, you want a steak, is Ziggy's Mad Dog, of course, in Islamorada. You know about that?
No, but
Remember Mad Dog? You're a Miami guy. Remember Jim Mandich?
Yeah.
So unfortunately he died, but so you'll see all the dolphin memorabilia there and stuff, and that's steak. Good fish too, but mostly steak. And then overall restaurant, our favorite, my girlfriend and I, is Square Grouper. Both here in Islamorada or in Cudjoe if you're headed down, but they have one in Islamorada now. And that's just overall great. And whatever, you can get anything off the menu there. It's just.
And for dessert?
Are you a key lime pie person?
I'm in the Keys.
Yeah. All three of those have very good key lime pie. Very good key lime pie. All three of them. I like key lime pie. Even though I live here and I never get sick of it.
I know you talked a little bit about this. Did you aspire to a career in politics? Were you president of your senior class? Did this something you always wanted to? Did you want to be president when you were a kid?
Well, I can't be because I wasn't born in this country, so that was always a disappointment. I was a big Henry Kissinger fan because he couldn't be president. He probably would have been a great president, but he wasn't born in this country either. Yeah. I was class president and quarterback of the football team. Just always been out front, just getting out there, getting involved, and not being afraid to tell people what I think.
We are the Good Government Show. Tell me about a good government project you've been able to pull off down here in Monroe County that you're proud of.
Good government. Well, the finishing the sewer system was really important because when I got down here, there was still people. That was only 15 years ago. We got mandated by the state in '99, so it's like 25 years ago. So, and people were still saying we didn't need it. We didn't need it, and we couldn't afford it. I was able to go to Tallahassee. Our relationship, the county's relationship with Tallahassee, was non-existent. As a matter of fact, it was very bad. And I had been to Tallahassee with the Water Management District, so I knew how to navigate that. That's probably my finest moment. And I remember when I first started, we need to hire a dream team of lobbyists. Remember that was a dream team back then with basketball? And I got laughed out in the paper, and this guy is a lobbyist. And why do we need lobbyists? Why do we need it? Well, now, if you look at our lobbyists and the lobbyists that the municipalities have, we have top 10. We have them all, right? And I say if you can't beat them, you have to hire them, right? Because you hire them for defense too, so they don't work against you. Well, I don't know what our number is, but I'm going to guess we're about $350 million in right now from Tallahassee. And that's probably my proudest moment, that we've improved our relationship with Tallahassee. I was and
that allows good government on every other level, because now you've got a working relationship with people who respect each other.
Well, absolutely. But more importantly, the money. So we're sending about $250 million to Tallahassee every year on our tax receipts, right? 6% that we collect, $250 million. By
the mafia, you take it upstairs.
Well, they take it. I mean, they take it and they give us. Now, if we don't have any other programs or anything, we only get back, because our population is so low, about 20 million. So you talk about being a donor community. 250 going north, 20 coming south. Well, this past year we got almost 200 million, just because of all these other programs. So those are proud moments that we've been able to tell the state, we have all these programs. We're like the little caboose. We're the little train that could. And then now they even copied our program, this whole sea level rise program. Yeah. Now it's a statewide program, where you first have to do a LIDAR, you have to do a survey, and then you have to do a vulnerability analysis. So they implemented our program. So that's a proud moment also.
How much of it factors into where we are? Who doesn't love the Keys? Who doesn't come down here and think, this is a beautiful spot? That's got to help.
Absolutely. And I always joke with my colleagues. I always joke with the vendors. I joke with the Florida Fish and Wildlife. They were just here last weekend, and they had 6 people down here. And, their budget's tight. But we're starting an artificial reef program. Right? So we did a couple Zoom calls, and I said, guys, August, it kind of slows down. Room rates are pretty cheap. I'll talk to a couple of hoteliers. We'll get you some rooms. Get down here. Didn't take much. It didn't take much, But now
we'll go to the Keys.
Exactly.
We'll go fishing.
And what hoteliers even paid for the lunch, and so they had to to do all the S9 things. They have to declare it. So what? So you declare it. So what? So they came down here. Some of them brought their families. They were smart enough to get that room rate for a couple extra days or a couple days before. So it's not. We have to use that to our advantage. You're absolutely right. When I first started down in Key West, because I have an office in Key West, my Fridays and my Mondays were always full of meetings. It's like, my secretary, what's going on here? Why Fridays and Mondays? And then I finally, it was all vendors coming in, right? They're coming in on the company tab, right. Meet with, and I used to see the parking lot just like this. I'd see them at the parking lot, take their jacket off, and they change, and underneath they got their swimsuit, and their families waiting for them, and they just drop off a card, met with the administrator, checked off the expense account, and let's go play. So absolutely, we want to take advantage of it. So I invite people down all the time.
Thank you very much for your time. Pleasure to be in the Keys. Pleasure to meet you.
Spent a lot of money. We need it.
To help tell this story, I toured the Keys. My first stop was in Key Largo, where I met residents affected by sea rise, and they told me what was going on.
Sandy Milheiser, and I live in Key Largo in a community called Twin Lakes, where a lot of flooding goes on.
Tell me about the flooding. I've never been here for it. I want you to explain to me what it's like. How bad is it?
Certain times of the year, we have something that is called a king tide, and the flooding here could be anywhere from 12 inches to 1 inch down and a mile long to a half mile long. And this flooding can remain from anywhere from a couple of months long. And then we also have when heavy rains come, we have continuous flooding out here in our road also. And then sometimes these people go out very early in the morning, and we also have pictures of crocodile out in the road. So this makes the walk very risky to walk up and down this road.
You're walking with crocodiles.
Correct. And other living aquatic creatures that are in the road. Yes.
John Milheiser is Sandy's husband. And by the way, their home is beautiful. It sits on the end of a point in Key Largo and faces Florida Bay. That's part of the Everglades National Park that reaches down into Key Largo. Paradise, especially if you love to fish. And John told me what it's like to live in a flood zone and one of the special problems.
So the residents have to drive their cars or their whatever they're driving, trucks, whatever, through this deep water, completely saturating the undersides of their car with salt water, with basically seawater, because that's what the flood is that you're looking at.
That ruins cars.
It sure does. I've been through, I just bought my 5th car.
Have you walked through the water yourself?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What's that like?
Put boots on and go for it. It's deep. It's solid bottom, but it's deep. Go in and watch all the fish. The little fishies swimming around in it, which the roseate spoonbills are back now, and they're going around eating the little fish and having fun in it. But it's not the right thing to be for a public road.
What keeps you staying here, though?
Look around. It's beautiful here. I mean, I like to fish. We like to, go out, and I've got backcountry fishing. I've got out front fishing or snorkeling and all of that. And it's all right here. This is the capital of the world for doing those things. And that's why we decided to retire here.
For Sandy and John and their neighbors, the fix isn't coming fast enough. But as both Rhonda and Roman explained, they need to fix it correctly, and that takes time and money. But I'm saving the best for last. The canals are cleaner. I went to Big Pine Key and talked with some folks there who see some changes already. Their canal restoration is on the final steps and improvements are underway.
My name is Joe Lamb. We're in Big Pine Key on Doctor's Own.
And you've been coming down here for a while. What have you noticed about the canals?
Look like they're getting cleaner. What I can tell, like I said, I've only been here a couple days, but the marina was a lot cleaner. This is a lot cleaner.
I met another resident who also lives on a cleaner canal.
My name is Patricia Ceballos, and we're at Granada Avenue in Big Pine Key, Florida.
And tell me what the plan is for the canal here for the restoration as you understand it.
As far as I understand it is we had the culvert put in between the two canals, and right now it seems like it's working pretty well. And we're also going to have a grass gate put in at the end of our canal. Hopefully we'll make sure the grass doesn't come all the way down to the very end of our canal, which would actually help and make the water much clearer. It's been good since it finally started, Jess, and I think it can only improve.
Let me go back to Rhonda, who got an update from one resident who lives on one of the restored canals.
You have a letter from someone there. Could you read it to me? Because it was pretty impressive.
Yes, this is from one of our first restorations where we took a 40-foot canal and backfilled it to a depth of about 8 feet. So it's, hello, Miss Rhonda. We live on the Pigeon Bunting Canal that was recently restored by Monroe County. We just wanted to let you know what a great job everyone involved did. The air curtains that were up during the work have been down for about 2 months now, and the canal is complete. And already the water is clearing up and we can see the bottom of the canal. We have noticed lots of fish, big and small, in our canal. The manatees seem to like the shallow water more. A half a dozen of them show up just about every day now. We hope the seagrass from the bay will spread into our canal, and then we will have a beautiful aquarium right off our dock. We may even see some angelfish in here now that we have clean water. Again, thank you and everyone involved so much. It's really heartwarming to get letters like that.
Where do you get your news from? Where do you get your state and local government news from? Because that's getting harder and harder. And it's essential to stay updated with your community. And it's becoming increasingly important to know what's going on in other cities and states, because they're likely facing challenges that you're grappling with too, or you're going to face eventually. That's why we'd like to welcome our new partner, Route 50, to the show. Route 50 is a leading online publication covering state and local governments across the country. They've written about states protecting themselves against the rise in cyber attacks, counties using AI to better support citizen services, local responses to crumbling infrastructure and extreme weather, and much, much more. There's a lot there. It's a one-stop shop for issues affecting state and local governments and their residents. That's you. That's all of us. Do yourself a favor and go to route50.com to see the topics and solutions they cover and learn what other people in government are doing. They also deliver a daily newsletter called Route 50 Today. I see it in my inbox every morning. I check it out, and you should too. Thanks again, Route 50. We're excited to have you on board and being a partner here at the Good Government Show. What is it that county government does? That's the question county commissioners get asked the most, and the simple answer is everything. On the Good Government Show, we're so lucky to have talked with so many county commissioners and other county officials that have shown us how effective county government is. County government dates back to, get this, 1634, making it one of the oldest forms of government in the United States. Think about it. Roads, highways, hospitals, schools, recycling, law enforcement, water, sewers, and most of the county, those services are maintained by the county. That's county government. The National Association of Counties represents all 3,069 counties across the USA. NACo helps county government work better together through things like sharing best practices. When county government works well, that's just good government. There's more work to do. More funding is needed, but the canals are being cleaned up one by one, and the county is planning for the future. But for me, a visitor to the Keys and someone who really cares about the Keys, I say, well, everyone wants a fix now. Planning and doing it the right way is better government, and that's good government. But listen, hey, I'm open to discussing this. Let's talk. Here's what you do. Head south down Overseas Highway. Around mile marker 84, pull into the Tiki Bar. Order a rum runner and get a floater on top and look for me. Unless it's sunset, because by then I'll be on the bay side. So go check out the chairs on the beach by Pierre's. Hey, until then, keep listening. Please share this story with your friends. We need everyone to know that special places like the Florida Keys are changing. Make sure to follow us and like us on all your social media. I'm Dave Martin, reporting from the Florida Keys, Monroe County, Florida. This is the Good Government Show, and we'll be back here. Until next time, thanks for listening. The Good Government Show is a Valley Park production. Jim Ludlow, Dave Martin, that's me, and David Snyder are the executive producers. Our show is edited and produced by Jason Stershic. Please subscribe, then share us, and like us and review us. That's the best way to make sure we're able to keep telling these stories of our government working for all of us. Then listen to the next episode of The Good Government Show.